Welcome to the Lizzie Borden Podcast, Episode 13. The Lizzie Borden Podcast is a Nine Muses Books production. This is the first podcast devoted to Lizzie Borden and the Borden murders of 1892. I'm your host, Stefani Koorey, filling in for the late Richard Behrens, author of the Lizzie Borden Girl Detective series of mysteries. In this episode, we bring you a reading of The Scrooge of Second Street, a Lizzie Borden Girl Detective Christmas story. Although Richard uses an authentic 1870s Fall River as a setting for his mysteries, as well as a teenage Lizzie Borden and her real family members as characters, the stories are pure comic invention, quirky fiction wrapped in an intriguing mystery. Many years before her infamous arrest and trial for the murders of her father and stepmother, Richard's Lizzie Borden pursued a career as a private consulting detective, and her beloved cousin, Sarah Borden, served as a chronicler of her adventures. In this story, we meet Homer Thesinger, boy inventor, Lizzie's stingy father, Andrew, her jealous and ineffectual sister, Emma, and Abby, her dour and stern stepmother. You have met Lizzie Borden before, but never like this. And now, the Lizzie Borden Podcast presents The Scrooge of Second Street, a Lizzie Borden Girl Detective Christmas story, performed by me, Stefani Koorey. The Scrooge of Second Street, a Lizzie Borden Girl Detective Christmas story by Richard Behrens. Copyright 2016 by Nine Muses Books. Fall River, Massachusetts, Christmas, 1875. As Christmas time drew near in the Borden household, there was not a word said about a family celebration. Despite Christmas having been declared a federal holiday, Father had so many Puritan roots dangling from his trunk that he gradually came to resemble Ebenezer Scrooge, that perennial curmudgeon from Mr. Dickens's novel, as he stalked about our parlor, scowling against wassail and Christmas spirit. "There are new Bengalin dresses on sale at Hodges," Emma suggested to Father in good faith. "Buying them would do much to repair your reputation." "Dresses," Father railed. "What about that textile warehouse you have up in that closet? Between the two of you, I'm surprised that the weight of your clothing doesn't cause the entire room to come crashing down into the basement." "But the spring fashions shall be here shortly," I argued. "You would not have us humiliated upon the street." Father screwed up his face as if trying to remember something distant. "What was that word that fellow used? The one who sent his nephew packing and had all those ghosts come and visit him. Yeah. That's it. Humbug." "But, Father, it's Christmas." "Fool's tide, I call it. An egregious ritual." "What about the New Year? Does that mean anything to you?" "And what should it mean? The earth spins around the sun one more turn, my hair gets grayer, and Mrs. Borden gets stouter. You and Emma shall get older and still not have suitors. To me, Christmas is an indulgence, a vanity, and besides, there is no scriptural justification for it. I simply won't have it." Emma and I were stunned by his proclamation, especially his comment that we shall not have suitors. "Father, that was unkind. My heart is wounded," I said. His pale face remained locked, so we stormed off to our rooms, where we broke into tears and held each other like frightened children. "What are we to do?" Emma asked. "He's not Father anymore. He has finally turned into Scrooge." Then we shall treat him as such, I said, determined. We shall make hay with father's unhappiness and pretend a supernatural visitation, just like in the Dickens novel. Supernatural? How can that be achieved? I know just the right person to help us, exclaimed Lizzie. Homer Thesinger, the boy inventor of Pleasant Street, was delighted when we suggested a confederacy against father. It was a chance to test his spirit box, as he called his newly improved lantern into which he could insert photographs. He had already refashioned his zazophone, a tangled system of rubber hoses and crescent-shaped cups, into a ghost trumpet. His hobby was to simulate seances and thereby reveal to people how spiritualists accomplish their claptrap. He was already adept at the art of fake visitations. If you're fashioning your spectral attack on that Dickens story, he said, may I suggest we all play a role? I have extended the ghost trumpet's range and multiplied the input cups. Now voices can come from different sides of the room and carry on multiple conversations simultaneously. You are a genius, I said, giving him a light kiss on the cheek. My boy inventor. I prefer electromechanician, he blushed. Entry into father's office at his furniture store was no problem, since I had a copy of the key. The three of us slipped in there the night before Christmas Eve, and we wired the place with the multiple tentacles of the ghost trumpet, and rigged up a platform behind a potted rubber tree from which the magic lantern could project onto the large bare wall over father's roll-top desk. Homer could hide behind the tree, speak into his input cup, and control the magic lantern slides at the same time. Emma and I would perch behind other furniture in the room with our own input cups and involve ourselves in the visitation. Father made a habit of going to his office after supper on Christmas Eve. For all his bluster about disrespecting the holiday, he always responded to the increased sales as Fall River homeowners bought more than the usual number of feather beds, sofas, and sideboards. There was never a humbug on his lips as he quarantined himself in his counting house to catalog the money that the Christmas spirit had blown his way. This is how we found him, close to midnight on December 24th, conveniently nodding off as he scrawled inside his books, adding up his columns, calculating the quantities of his coffers. We crawled noiselessly into the room and took our places at our various nests, waiting for the right moment to initiate our ghostly visitation. Father eventually put down his quill and stretched his arms over his head, yawning into slumber while reclined in his chair. At that moment, Homer lit the lantern and projected the first slide on the wall, just above Father's line of sight. It was a spectacular vision of a hovering creature swathed in bandages and restrained by lengths of chain and padlocks. The face was gaunt and haunted and sparkled as if in motion. Father let out a yelp and curled his arms and knees tight against his torso. Homer was moaning into his input cup, creating a heart-rending moan that echoed about the room, obscuring its true origin. "Andrew Jackson Borden," cried the spirit. "I am the ghost of your partner, William Almy. I have come to save you from yourself." "William?" Andrew said, confused. "But you are not dead. I had supper with you 2 nights ago." "I am not dead," the spirit responded, sounding a bit puzzled itself. "But I am such a miserable wretch that my spirit haunts my own offices prematurely. My sins are recognized before my death. I have neglected the poor, lining my pockets with coins stolen from hungry babies. I colluded with the captains of industry to enslave the masses, to exploit the proletariats after seizing the modes of production." I blew into my spirit input cup, and my voice filled the room in a crazed swirl. "William, to the point." "Oh, sorry," the spirit of Mr. Almy said shyly, then moaned piteously. "Oh, you have been a miserable wretch, Andrew, always thinking of yourself and not of your family. I behaved the same way, and that is why I suffer so." "Oh, poor ghost," Father lamented. "What can I do to escape this fate?" "List! List!" the ghost commanded. "Hear the voice of your Christmas past." Upon this cue, Emma spoke into her cup, adopting a shrill, childlike tone.
"Andrew, is that you? Are you there?"
"Phoebe? My God, is that Phoebe?" Father was nearly in tears listening to what he believed to be my aunt, who passed away 20 years ago. It seemed a pity to play upon his sadness this way, but his reaction told me that our devious plan could possibly succeed, and the Bengaline dresses could be ours.
"Andrew, do you remember Christmas Day when we were but children? Father had no care for it. He called it Fool's Tide."
"Did he?" Father blinked. "What a silly name for—" And then he stopped and pulled at his jaw bristle.
"But he found it amusing to give us those little toys," Emma continued. "He always made sure that we got our own personal toy. Mine was always a beautiful poppet, dressed in silk, Bengaline. The fabric was most enchanting. The dress was made from Bengaline silk, and—" I blew into my cup. "Phoebe, to the point." "I remember," Father said wistfully. "And for me?" "Yours was a wooden soldier with blue leggings and a bright red coat. We could play for hours pretending that the soldier was courting the puppet."
"Ah," he moaned, "you have touched upon a memory too deep for tears." He was falling for the ruse, completely forgetting that he had explained to me once why he had a collection of wooden soldiers hidden in his cabinet. He had spoken of them disdainfully as if they were an embarrassment. Now his face was beaming even in the darkness.
"We loved our toys, Andrew. It made the winter nights all the more joyful. Wouldn't it be a delight if Emma and Lizzie could feel the way we felt? They could have the same joy, the same Christmas spirit."
"Perhaps," Andrew said. His face twitched with his upraised fingers, as if he were calculating some sums in his mind. "Yes, just perhaps." "Heed Phoebe well," Homer spoke in the ghost's rasping chatter. "And heed your own daughter well as she speaks to you of Christmas present." "Lizzie?" Father said confusedly. "Is she here?"
"Here, but not here," I spoke into my cup. "I am the spirit of Christmas present, taking the form of your daughter. I know her woes and her longings. She sits before the fire in the sitting room, feeling forlorn, abandoned. Her father goes about his business, counting his dividends, totaling his sales, thinking only of his mill stock and election to the board of a great bank. He does not see that his own Lizzie and Emma are sorrowful, two shrouds haunting their own world. They are unloved because you will not bestow upon them what you know in your heart to be the real spirit of Christmas."
"But there are no scripture that justifies the celebration of such a ridiculous holiday," he snapped, as if lecturing the spirits. His words came as bold reprimands.
"Did you need scripture to justify your toy soldiers?" Emma said. "You never refused them when they came out of Grandfather's pockets."
Father was momentarily stunned into silence. Then he said slowly, "Lizzie and Emma sit weeping at home right now? William, tell me, I cannot bear it. They are deprived of your holiday blessing. They say vile things about you. They call you Ebenezer Scrooge and rue Christmas Day as they would the passing of a loved one."
"No," Father moaned. "No, William, no more. Let me go home. There is much upon my head."
"But Andrew," Homer said slyly, "there is one more spirit come to show you the error of your ways. Here is the wraith of Christmas future. He has grim tidings for you."
Homer had by this time concealed himself in a dark cloth, such as the Grim Reaper would wear. It was frayed burlap and hung over his brows, obscuring his face. From its sleeve he stuck out one hand that he had painted white for the occasion. It radiated a small glow that traced in the air like a dancing flame. Father shrieked and nearly dove under the desk.
"Death!" he bellowed. "Come to reap my soul! No, you cannot have it yet!" "Nor shall I," Homer said in a guttural and horrific voice. He had snuck one of the cups into his cloak and was shouting into it for full effect. "But I tell you, Andrew Jackson Borden, of your fate. I see your daughters fleeing from your house. They take to living on the hill in a house much larger than the cheese box you provide for them now. They are happy up there. They have taken your money and bought all the amenities that you deny them."
"Traitors," Father growled. "They dare not take my money. That's theft."
"No," Homer laughed sardonically. "Not theft. On this future Christmas Day, you are no longer on the earth."
What?
"Dead? Am I dead?" "It was the only way that they could escape you."
Something unexpected then occurred. My father, typically a bedrock of stoicism, burst into uproarious tears. His whole torso convulsed as he poured tears into his upturned palms. "No, that must not happen. That will not happen."
"List!"
Homer commanded, which was our cue to come in with some prepared dialogue. "Emma, isn't this a wonderful Christmas in our mansion on the hill?" I said in my ordinary voice, cheerful with a touch of laughter. "Most decidedly so," Emma replied. "The tree is full of tinsel, candles, and merry ornaments. The gifts for the children are under the tree. The children will be so happy to see what we got for them." "And what did we get for the children, Emma?" I asked. "We bought them," Emma said with an emphasis on the word bought. "Their heart's content. Toy soldiers, drums, toy trains, cymbals, whistles, bouquets of flowers, nuts, candles, sweetmeats, sugar canes, and gumdrops." "Oh, what a cornucopia of delights!" I squealed. "We must not forget that Christmas is for the children, and the children come first in everything."
"Children?" Father asked. "What children? Whose children?" "The forgotten ones of the Taunton Orphan Asylum," Homer cried. "Those who lost their families, those who never had families, those who are alone for one small moment. They will feel the gentle love of Christmas, and those who obey its spirit. They will find joy in obtaining what was once unobtainable." Father's sobbing grew achingly, and we sensed that it was time to ease his way out of the visitation that we had conjured for him. Homer withdrew behind his potted plant and began removing the image from the magic lantern. "Do not forget the children," we all chanted in unison as the lantern light dimmed and the room returned to silence. We held our breaths, knowing that Father would bolt from the room, leaving us to pack up our equipment and vacate the office. He was flying by his coattails within seconds, alternately sobbing and moaning. We heard his lamentations all the way to the front door of the shop, and then he was gone. We could not help from laughing heartily, and we stopped to convulse ourselves in merriment several times as we cleared the equipment from the office. All the way home, we told each other lines we had acted as the spirits and burst into fresh peals of laughter, remembering Father's response. It was Emma who darkened the mood.
I certainly hope we did not break his heart.
Nonsense, I told her. We have softened his heart. Tomorrow morning we will see the fruits of our labors. I can see those Bengaline dresses now, fresh from the shops, covering our bodies as we stroll about the streets. Those dresses danced in our minds throughout the night. We could not hear a single sound from Father's bedroom besides some light snoring. Only once did we hear him shout in his sleep the single word, "Phoebe!" And that was enough to tell us that our little performance had moved him deeply. In the morning, we hurried to perform our toilet and get into our pink wrappers. As soon as we were decent, we hurled ourselves down the stairs like a pair of schoolgirls. But Father was not at home. We found Mrs. Borden and the Maggie preparing breakfast in the kitchen. It seemed to consist of wheat pancakes, pears, coffee, and bananas. It was not exactly my vision of a holiday meal. There were no decorations, no wreaths of holly, no candles, no Prince Albert tree. There was only my stepmother, washing her hands and pouring the breakfast batter. Did Mr. Borden go out for last-minute shopping? I asked her optimistically. She chuckled at my absurd notion. Mr. Borden, she told us, has gone to his office to balance his books. He said he was too distracted last night to make short shrift of it, so he'll probably be there most of today. We were stunned into silence. When Mrs. Borden saw us mouth gapped, she blinked and said, almost casually, "But he left a package for both of you on the dining table, some sort of gift, I suppose." With bursts of enthusiasm, we rushed to the dining room, practically falling over each other. But to our dismay, there was only a small little box with a card fastened to the top. It read, "My dearest daughters, I wish you to have many happy moments with these joyful gifts. Your father, A.J. Borden." We opened the box and found inside a small wooden soldier with a red coat and blue leggings. There was also a hand-stitched poppet wrapped in a small swatch of Bengaline silk. They were faded and fragile, and we put them back into the box with care. "I'll kill him," Emma hissed, her eyes turning into dark pinpoints, searching for some unobtainable justice. "No," I told her. "Leave that to me." And so another Christmas came and went on 92 Second Street. But we endured it, knowing that we had effected some small conversion of Father's otherwise impassive heart. From all of us at Nine Muses Books, we wish you and your family a very jolly holiday. And don't forget to visit us at LizzieBordenGirlDetective.com.